Hello, students. Our topic for the meeting is all about international financial institutions. Okay, so what is the international financial institutions? This is a financial institution that has been established or what we say chartered by more than one country and is subjected to international law. So its owners or shareholders are generally national governments. Okay, although other international institutions and other organizations occasionally figure as shareholders as well. The most prominent IFIs are creations of multiple nations, although some bilateral financial institutions, when you say bilateral, of course, created by two countries, they are also exist and are technically IFIs. So the best known IFIs were established after World War II to assist in the reconstruction of Europe and provide mechanisms for international cooperation in managing the global financial systems. International financial institutions were founded by groups of countries, and the purpose of this is to promote public and private investment. Of course, to foster economic and social development in developing and transitioning countries. We already discussed what's the difference between developing, less developing, and of course the developed countries, and also the different theories of global stratification, which a country should follow or undergo before it will be considered as fully developed countries. Okay, so the first international financial institutions, also known as multilateral development banks, were established after World War II to help rebuild war-torn countries and, of course, to manage the global financial systems. Then later on, regional development banks were founded to promote economic growth and cooperation. So, how AIFI works? When you say IFI, it provides a long-term low interest loans, credits, and grants to finance projects run by governments or the private sector. Okay? Nagbibigay sila ng low interest loans, meaning mag-loan yung mga companies, then maliit lang yung ipapatong nila na interest doon. And in addition with that, long term yung loans, meaning to say mahabang term or period of time ang ibibigay nila sa mga companies para mabayaran yung loan na yon. They operate through shareholdings, trade services, and bank shares. And of course, to provide technical and policy advice to governments, private enterprises, and civil society. When you say shareholders or shareholdings, this is the shares in a company that a particular person or organization owns considered together as a unit. They have a share in that organization or in that company. So if you have a shareholding in a company, you own some of its shares. That's the meaning of that. Okay. Next is the services. The sale and delivery of an intangible product is called a service. This can be between a producer and consumer. So trade and services that takes place between a producer and consumer that are in legal terms based in different countries is called international trade in services. So trade in services include payments and receipts for service related activities such as financial services, transport services, accountancy, management, consultancy, and tourism. There are also companies that provides trainings and other services that we can consider. And these are all belong or under the trade services. Next is the bank shares. What is bank shares? So it is usually divided in shares of a certain amount. This stock is generally transferable on the books of the bank, and this is considered as personal property. Okay, now we go to the focus areas of international financial institutions. IFIs operate on the premise that strong economic institutions lead to social and economic development, particularly in fragile states and those most affected by poverty. So the recent global emphasis on environment sustainability has further given rise to new projects that promote renewable energy and respond to climate change. Other cross-cutting solutions areas common in IFS are gender, public-private partnerships, and anti-corruption activities. Okay. IFI seek to reduce poverty and also to support sustainable growth. How? IFIs continue to focus on low and middle countries. We're talking about the semi-peripheral and peripheral countries. If you remember the dependency theory, okay, beyond the key objectives of poverty reduction, social equality, and sustainable economic growth, that the outlook has expanded to further sectors, and that includes education, governance, and rule of law. So, private sector development and environmental resource management are also included. International financial institutions or IFI also play a significant role in supporting the private sector in developing countries by encouraging entrepreneurial initiatives that help developing countries achieve sustainable growth. As we mentioned or as we discussed in our previous meeting, that one problem or one issue that experts is that there are products that controlled by private sector. So in here through IFI, they support the private sector in developing countries through encouraging them entrepreneur initiatives that help developing countries to achieve sustainable growth. So, this role is becoming increasingly important for development institutions, along with more traditional aid and loan programs to governments. This wide range of fields offers exciting and challenging employment opportunities for qualified professionals with diverse backgrounds, skills, and aspirations. Okay, the contribution of IFC for the growth of Philippines economy. Okay, we talk about the Philippine economy, the Philippines is one of the most dynamic economies in the East Asia region, with sound economic fundamentals and globally recognized competitive workforce. Growth in the Philippines has been averaged about above 5% in the past decade, significantly higher than in the previous decade. So the country has earned investment grade ratings from major credit rating agencies as a result of its sound macroeconomic fundamentals. It is increasingly characterized by robust, inclusive economic growth, low and stable inflation, healthy current account surplus, and a sustainable fiscal position. So this is a combination never been seen in its history. Well, however, with GDP or the gross domestic products having reached its potential, the country should make use of its sound fiscal position to fund much needed infrastructure to sustain high growth in the following decades. With a solid economy that has proven to be resilient to some major shocks, this is the ability to recover quickly from difficult conditions or situations. Okay, for countries, the country can now focus its attention in implementing crucial structural reforms that can sustain inclusive growth and create more and better jobs and eradicate extreme poverty. Okay, International Finance Corporation. The IFC is a member of the World Bank Group and is headquartered in Washington, D.C., United States. It was established in 1956 as the private arm of the World Bank Group to advance economic development by investing in a strictly for profit in commercial products that purport to reduce poverty and promote development. The IFI's stated aim is to uh, aim or purpose is to create opportunities for people to escape poverty and of course achieve better living standards by mobilizing financial resources for private enterprise, promoting accessible and competitive markets, supporting businesses and other private sector entities. And of course, this creates jobs and delivering necessary services to those who are poverty stricken or otherwise vulnerable. Okay, so what are the IFC projects? Number one, mitigating climate change. IFC is helping to scale up lending for projects in renewable energy, energy efficiency, and climate change mitigation by advising and providing risk guarantees to its partner banks to support their loans. IFC is supporting a 180 megawatt solar and biomass plant investment on the island of Negros in central Philippines. So the purpose of this is to promote energy efficiency. IFC also supported Mandaluyong City in Metro Manila in drafting a green building ordinance that now requires new buildings to adopt environmentally friendly features. Kasi yun yung mga isa nating nakikita na problem, right? Nagsisidagsaan yung mga nagpapatayo ng mga buildings. That is why this AFC produced the building ordinance that requires new buildings to adopt environmentally friendly features. Number two, IFC projects. They support public-private partnership projects. IFC helps the government and private sectors collaborate on financing and executing major infrastructure projects. So it supports public-private partnership by advising on bids to build a toll expressway connecting the three terminals of the country's principal airport and a 12-kilometer extension of a Metro Manila train lay. So it's like developing the transportation in our country. Next project of IFC is supporting agribusiness. The World Bank supports agribusiness investments in the Bangsamoro region in southern Philippines to promote agricultural development and create jobs. IFC is helping the Department of Agriculture to improve import and export procedures to reduce the cost of agricultural products and also to enhance the competitiveness of the agricultural sector. Next project is expanding financing. So IFC supports banks to expand their lending to farmers and micro, small, and women-led enterprises. IFC is helping to attract more investment for entrepreneurs in Tacloban and other cities struck by Typhoon Haiyan. It is also supporting the development of affordable agro insurance products that will quickly reimburse farmers struck by typhoons and other natural disasters for their losses. IFC has been advising the government or giving participation or suggestion on the establishment of a credit bureau to improve access to credit for small business owners and individual borrowers. So this is like giving the opportunity for low companies, small companies, medium companies or enterprises. Next we have is enhancing trade and competitiveness. IFC advises the government on improving laws and regulations to create a more business-friendly environment in the Philippines to attract more investments. How they were going to do this? IFC has been supporting the Transportation and Communications Department to streamline the registration and licensing procedures for commercial ships to open up competition in the shipping sector. It also reduces logistic costs and ultimately reduce the price of goods. IFC and Manila work together to expand supply to Metro Manila residents. So Manila Water Company won a concession contract for the East Zone under the privatization project of Manila Waterworks and Sewerage System in 1997 with public-private partnership advisory support from IFC. So between the 1960s and late 1990s, most Manila homes of Philippines had little or no water supply. Can you imagine what is their life before? without this partnership. People had to queue up at public faucets until the wee hours of the morning, or they buy water from water trucks at exorbitant prices. That's how hard their life before this partnership when it comes to water supply. Much of the water was contaminated, so gastrointestinal diseases were common, especially among children, among kids. But that all changed when Manila Water Company won a concession contract for the East Zone under the privatization project of Manila Waterworks and Sewerage System in 1997, with public-private partnership advisory support from IFC. At this time, only 1 in 5 homes had water all day, and more than half of the water was lost to leaking pipes, theft, or vandalism. Since Manila Water began operating a concession contract for East Manila 15 years ago, the company has brought clean and affordable water to nearly 6.2 million customers so far, doubling the number of people it used to serve. Okay, to help Manila Water achieve this, IFC first extended $60 million in long-term debt financing to the company in 2003 and another 15 million in equity in 2005. IFC again provided a $100 million loan to help the company expand water supply and wastewater treatment services for the East Zone, servicing 23 towns and cities in and around Metro Manila. Now, 27% of the customers served by Manila Water are poor families. Water losses have been brought down to 12% from 62%. More than 4,600 kilometers of pipelines have been installed, and 39 wastewater facilities were constructed. Next, the powering progress. IFC projects also include the Olongapo City, Olongapo power electricity. For many years, residents of the northern Philippine city of Olongapo suffered frequent power outages. But as Olongapo began attracting international investments in the late 1990s, reliable electricity became even more vital. So to improve electricity supply for about 200,000 residents and to maintain the city's competitiveness, the Olongapo city government brought in a in IFC in 2008 to advise on the privatization of its electricity distribution system as public-private partnership eased the burden on taxpayers and spread a project risk and reward. At the same time, communities benefit from high services. IFC assisted in the preparation, design, and implementation of the transaction that involve sector investors. So in 2010, under the assistance also of IFC, Olongapo sold its electric electricity distribution system for $13.3 million to Cagayan Electric Power and Light Corporation Incorporated, one of the largest electricity distribution companies in the Philippines. So that is Sipalco. The Sipalco, another electric company, also agreed to invest $2 million pesos for system repairs and upgrades during the transition period and another $11 million over 5 years. The upgrades have helped to reduce some 3,600 tons of carbon dioxide emissions in Olongapo annually. Okay, every year since 2011. Then Olongapo Mayor James Gordon Jr. that time that says that public-private partnership deal for Olongapo's power system, which was done with the assistance of IFC, addresses local people and businesses' demand for a reliable supply of electricity. He also adds that modernization and improved services can be achieved only through private sector management due to the limited resources of the government. Next is IFC also helped the Philippine government attract private investments in off-grid power generation in rural areas. Just to give you a background, in Indonesia, where power shortages threaten to curtail industrial growth, IFC helped them to develop the first independent power project in more than 10 years. It advised Perosahan Listrik Negara, the state-owned power utility, to grant a private company that rights to build and operate the Central Java Power Plant. It was the first infrastructure project to be put out the tender under the country's new public-private partnership law. A Japanese-Indonesian consortium among J-Power, Etochu Group, and Adaro Power won the bid for a 25-year contract to build, own, operate, and transfer the new facility. So the project will help ease power shortages on Indonesia's main island of Java, and this is by generating 2,000 megawatts of electricity and improve access to electricity for 8 million residents. And um, they forecasted it by 2016. So it was already forecasted to be on that large, okay, 2,000 megawatts of electricity. So due to the help from IFC, the private sectors had plenty of opportunities to shoulder the risk and enjoy the rewards in the country's fast-growing economy while ensuring affordable, high-quality power for its people. Support growth engines. When it comes to engines, small and medium enterprises account for more than 90% of registered businesses in the Philippines. So in 2010 and 2011, IFC provided more than 6 million loans to micro, small, and medium enterprises, the MSME, in East Asia and the Pacific. So this in turn catalyzes job creation and economic growth. That's why IFC has invested in and provided expert advice to financial institutions serving this sector as well. Okay. IFC is also supporting in the sustainable development of Philippines by helping attract international investors to sectors such as infrastructure and public utilities, financial institutions, and agribusiness. So this is just a recap of what we have discussed. It provides loans and equity investments to private sector companies, including small and medium enterprises with growth potential, and mobilizes financing from other sources. IFC also advises firms and the government on how to enhance businesses' competitiveness. Since 1962, IFC has invested more than $3 billion. Imagine how big it is in equity and loans for more than 100 private sector companies. It has expanded its access to finance and infrastructure, facilitated public private partnership, improved the investment climate, mitigated climate change, and supported agribusinesses. IFC's unique financing and advisory products combine global expertise with local knowledge, maximizing investment returns and social benefits. So, to sum up this topic, Some of this topic are the help of IFC in the Philippines. IFC has helped to foster economic growth in the Philippines by promoting private sector investment in the Philippines. It has accomplished this by providing venture capital for productive private enterprises in association with local investors and management, also by encouraging the development of local capital markets, and of course by stimulating the flow of private capital. IFC has also supplemented rather than replaced private capital in the Philippines. It has played an important catalytic role in mobilizing additional project funding from other investors and lenders, either in the form of co-financing or through loan syndications, the underwriting of debt and equity securities issues and guarantees. In addition to project finance and resource mobilization, IFC has offered a full array of advisory services and technical assistance to Philippines in such areas as capital market development, corporate restricting, risk management, and project preparation and evaluation. So it has also advised Philippines government on creating and an environment that is also encourages the growth of private enterprise and foreign investment. So that ends my discussion about the international financial institution. Thank you so much, everyone.